Right, now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as they migrated from the east, they came upon a plain in the land of Sinai. I've probably butchered that word. And settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had bricks for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves." Now that seems important. A name for ourselves. "Otherwise we shall be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." The Lord came down to see the city and the tower which mortals had built. That's kind of those peasants, those mere mortals. What are the mortals been up to? And the Lord said, "Look, they are one people, and they have all one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. Nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language there, so that they will not understand one another's speech." Probably like you listening to this right now, you probably can't understand a word I'm saying because I'm really butchering all these words and seem to be all over the place, but we'll carry on. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore it was called Babel. I think it's called Babel, not Babel. My bad. E-L. Babel. Because there the Lord confused the language of the earth. And from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. So let's break this down. What have I learnt? I have learnt that the earth had one language. They were building a huge tower. God came down and was like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "We're building it so that we can reach the heavens. And we want to make a name for ourselves." I think that is a very important context for this story, is making a name for ourselves. Now, then God, he's not worried about. I don't think God is worried about them actually reaching heaven. Bear in mind, we have now built rocket ships to space and all of this. Don't come after me, flat earthers. I know there's a few in the chat. Hello. And I can prove that because they've just wrote planks of government propaganda. So, flat earth 101 there. I can really smell them. Now, he belittles them by calling them mortals. No, I don't think he was actually belittling them. But do you know what? That would be a great insult for someone. "You mortal," really puts them in their place. Like I could make you no longer more. Wait, I can really prove your mortality right now. Yeah, what a threat. Now, after that, he went, "All right, I'm gonna." God went, "Hang on a minute. What's all this? This is not on. So I'm gonna confuse all your languages so you can't actually understand what's going on, and then I'm gonna scatter you across like different parts of the world." Now, I think this is really trying to be the sort of what is the name of history? What is the name for the study of language history? What is the name? Historical linguistics. Now, I don't know a lot about historical linguistics. However, I would assume that it's probably actually quite an interesting subject, because like if you take into consideration the English language, how many languages have been sort of, merged together to create this new wonderful language? You've got Latin, you've got French, and probably a few others. So, do I think from this that they were like, we're building all a big tower? Chinese, Japanese, Russian, French, English. No. Partly because a lot of those languages didn't even exist in the time of that. But I think this might be, I'm just a theory, but if you got, I think this is talking about different dialects within a particular region, because although it says scattered across the entire earth. We'll come back to that. At first, I want to go down through this, which is why God seems, and that's the important word I'm saying, seems to be worried about them reaching him by building this tower. And I don't think, from reading this, it doesn't sound like he's worried. Why would God be worried about them building a physical tower to reach the heaven, which is beyond matter and time and space, beyond the physical world? So I'm going to look this up because Google will know better than I do. I'm sure of it. I could try my best. Where is he? Omnian? You might have to be a little bit more specific there. I don't quite know what you're saying there. Where is he? Where is he? Where's he, man? Chat's gone mad. Right. What was I looking up? I got confused. I got sidetracked with Batman. Where is Omniman? Omniman. Where is Omniman? I might sound really dumb here, but I don't know who you're talking about. What are you on about? I don't understand you. Please speak a language that I can understand. Tu parles français? Español? Ruski? That's pretty much it. I don't speak any of them very well. What am I looking up? Oh, this is dreadful. What a bad stream this is turning out to be. Oh dear. Are you sure? I don't know who you're on about. Stop derailing my stream. I don't know who's Omniman. Right, side mission. Who is Omniman? Oh, you. Can't believe I looked that up live on stream. Right. I'm not gonna even get rid of that. Spider-Man. Right. Back to it. Why was God worried? No, I don't think he is worried about the Tower of Babel. Oh, it's number one result. Search result. Let's see. Preventing unchecked hubris. God noted, if as one people speaking the same language, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan will be impossible for them. So this is sounding like very much similar to this sort of idea back from, like, sort of Garden of Eden sort of vibes, where it's like they're trying to become like God. So they're like, I am going to build this tower to reach God. I am amazing. I am the best. I deserve to be next to God, and I'm going to reach God right by in this way. And then God was like, whoa, if you want to reach me, this is not how you're going to reach me. There's a you got to go through the system. You got to go through the the loopholes. You got to go through the sort of, the paperwork. Also known as the Bible. Which button is it? Not that one. Yeah. That's it. So yeah, it instructed humanity to increase in number and fill the earth. I think naturally, this isn't talking about. I don't think this story is about why there is modern languages. I think we got to remember that it's got to focus more on this as these sort of more ancient languages and why they were scattered. Because this is like, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, before Moses, which is quite impressive. Stopping autonomy. Here we go. The construction represents humanity's attempt to assert dominance and organize a society that excluded God, seeking power independently of his will. So this is why God was like, nah. Now, is it possible that things were fractured? I'm just sort of brainstorming here. I'm trying to sort of understand this. Is it possible, perchance, that God, it was actually maybe partly, I was going to say that humans doing, like how, I mean, you think of why French and Spanish, two countries that are right next to each other, have quite different languages, albeit over the course of, hundreds of years. But still, don't know. But that is, in fact, the entire story of the Tower of Babel. But don't worry, we've got more. That's why I've grouped in to the descendants of Shem. No, we're starting with Abram. Now, Abram, let me just backtrack a little bit. What have I learnt with this Tower of Babel? This whole thing sets up this next part of the story, which leads on to Abram. It's not a short stream, there's more. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Now, Abram, like I said earlier, in case you missed it, Abram. Who's Abram? I don't know no Abram. Well, in fact, Abram is more commonly known as Abraham. Now, he's got two names because he was in the witness protection and he needed to escape with a new... No, don't spread fake stories. It's not. That's not. Just ignore everything I just said there. But Abram changed his name to Abraham, and Abraham, it seems to be. And to be honest, I don't know too much about Abraham, so I'm excited to get into this because Abraham. The interesting thing is it comes when you think of when you class Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they're all classed under one sort of link, which is Abrahamic religions. So this Abraham guy seems pretty important to all three of those religions. Of course, we'll be looking into it from a sort of Christian view, albeit this is the Jewish part of the book, which is the Old Testament. But yeah, so we start off here with more genealogy. He lived there, he had a son, blah 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 blah. It really gets to know how we got from there, Tower of Babel, to Abraham. Here we go. I can see Abram. Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai. Sarai, who I believe later becomes Sarah. They all love to change their names. And the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and Ishka. These are not easy names. Now, Sarai was barren. She had no child. Terah took his son, Abram, and his grandson, Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law, Sarai, his son Abraham's wife, and they went together from Ur to Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. I know how to pronounce that word, Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. The days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. So the lifespans are slowly decreasing in age. Pretty boring start so far, but it's setting it up. Don't jump ahead. Got to get a good, strong foundation of an understanding of where Abram came from. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse, and in you all families of the earth shall be blessed." There's a lot of blessing there. Bless you. And so this is sounding like sort of the creation of Israel, potentially. I don't want to jump ahead, but it talks about I will make a great nation, and I remember somewhere it talking about the Jews being a nation of peoples, like without borders. They are like a nation, and I don't know. They're a religion, nation, ethnicity? Question mark. If I were in the Bible, I'd be named something cool like Asteroid Destroyer. And that's why you're not in the Bible. All right, Cameron. That's not why. Asteroid Destroyer would be cool, but it would probably freak out the dinosaurs. You know, give them a bit of PTSD. Oh, am I going to do another drum beat? Oh, yes, I am. Right. So Abram went as the Lord told him. He did what he said, like a good boy. And Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot. Now, Lot seems to be, I remember Lot, he seems to be an important character later on for a little bit of a side quest. And all the possessions that they had gathered and the persons from they had acquired in Haran, and they set forth to go to the land of Canaan. So all of that is saying God told Abram to go to Canaan, and he went to Canaan. When they had come to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place of Shalem, to the oak of Moreh. And at that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Oh, they were just in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring, I will give this land." So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there, he moved on to the hill country on the east of Bethel. Is that the beginning of Bethlehem? Do you know what I mean? Is that the sort of early Bethlehem? And pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. It's probably pronounced I, but Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and invoked the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on the stages towards Nagabeth. Right. This is something. Altars, Jewish altars, they're quite complex. And I believe somewhere in the Bible it talks about how to build one. It gives a whole. Oh, that is not. I don't want to buy one. Yeah, they've got here. They have like sections, and each section means something else, and that's what the Jewish temple in Jerusalem, the old one, this here seems to be just a huge temple, but now it's gone. But it's still got the Wailing Wall, which is part of the old temple, and that's considered quite sacred because it is still part of that temple, which again has multiple layers, and each layer is, I believe, more sacred than the next. Maybe, I don't know. This is all hearsay. AI is a godly creation, therefore we must cherish and accept it. I don't know. Humanity did make AI. Does that mean God made it? Don't know. But if you want to cherish and accept it, you go ahead. I will not stop you. Humanity made AI in the Lord's image. Yeah, but that is one of the problems, right? You know what? A great sidetrack there. It is one of the problems with AI is, I think, from a Christian perspective, I think a lot of people are putting AI on a pedestal where there almost seems like a quick fix for God. Like, I want an answer, so I'm going to ask AI. When really it should be probably more sensible to pray to God and sort of, talk to him about it. AI is like humanity's God, which perfectly pretty much sums up the Tower of Babel, trying to sort of create this sort of godly thing, trying to reach heaven. I mean, would AI not be humanity's attempt to reach the divine if we take into AI being, if we took AI to be God or humanity's creation, humanity's created God, but it's not the real thing. Okay, so where was we? So build an altar. So where is this land? Where is Canaan? Where is Canaan? Israel. So this is the first time in the Bible, from what we've read in these live streams, the first time that Israel has been mentioned. So this is where. So what does it say here? Aran, as they set forth to Canaan, when, yeah, to your offsprings I will give you this land. So this is, yeah. Let's not bring politics into this. I think that's probably a very wise decision there. we're gonna carry on. But yeah, this is where I think this seems to be where the politics seems to be deriving from. If the biblical is saying to your offsprings I will give you this land, this is probably quite significant and probably a good thing to learn about. It gives you probably good context into understanding the politics. But I am here to read the Bible. I am not a politician. Now, there was a famine in the land. So Abram went down to Egypt to reside there in an alien. Oh, there as an alien. I don't think that probably means UFOs. Something tells me that doesn't mean UFOs. For the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know well that you are a woman beautiful in appearance, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you're my sister, so that it may go well with me because of you. So you're too beautiful. They're going to kill me because you're too beautiful. So say you're my sister, so that I will, they'll let me live. Pretty mad plan there. And that my life will be spared on your account. When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. When the officials of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. She went, this one's great. You want to see this one? And the woman was taken into the Pharaoh's house, and for her sake he dealt well with Abram. And he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, female, and female slaves, female donkeys and camels, male and female slaves. Wow, this is interesting wording here, because it's Abram. When you look at the structure here, so Abram is given a bunch of offerings, probably by the Pharaoh, probably to butter him up, be like, I really like your sister. You got to take into consideration the time here, ancient time. This was like Tinder back in the day, give the brother of the girl you liked sheep, oxen, male donkeys, and male and female slaves, and female donkeys and camels. Now, and then she'll swipe left, swipe right. I don't know which one's which. I promise you, I do not know which one's which. Now, does anyone else know? There's more talk about AI. We can have a long discussion of AI in a bit. But it's interesting here, the structure, which is the male and female slaves, is like sandwiched between, we got sheep, we got oxen, we got male donkeys. We got male and female slaves and, female donkeys and camels. It's like, it's probably like sort of I think that's highlighting sort of the times of, stock, and I don't actually think this like the Bible is painting this as in good light. From this structure, it's saying that he was given slaves like they were sheep or donkeys, to be bartered for his sister, who isn't his sister, it's his wife. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So it's all gone pear-shaped because the Pharaoh thinks it's because he realizes that, because Abram's wife, because it's not because Sarai is not Abram's sister, it's actually his wife. It's caused a bunch of plagues. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and be gone. I don't want your wife. I thought she was your sister. You caused real problems. And Pharaoh gave his men orders concerning him, and they set him on the way with his wife and all that he had. Sea salt. How do I mute? You don't want to hear me slurping. So yeah. So it's quite a weird story so far. But we come to expect that when reading the Bible. So let's move on. So Abram went up from Egypt. Now, before we move on a little bit, it's strange how Abram was like pretty chill with this. He was like, you know what? I got my slaves, I got my donkeys. I'm pretty chilling. Because look, here we go. Look, so Abram went from Egypt, he and his wife, and all they had, and Lot with him, into Negeb. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and in gold. So he was minted from this. He's pimped out his wife to some pharaoh, got a bunch of stuff, and was like, you got to do this because you got to protect me. And then everything went pear-shaped when there was a plague. But he's rich. And he's journeyed on by stages from the Negeb as far as Bethel, to a place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar first. So he's returned back to where he came from, now richer. And now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them living together. So it was not enough. Your sheep's eating too much of my sheep's food. So we got to split up, go our separate ways, find greener pastures. So for their possessions were so great that they could not live together, and there was strife between the herders of Abram's livestock and the herders of Lot's livestock. So they're causing the arguments because they're like, this sheep's my sheep, no, that sheep's mine. So they thought, what, it's probably best we have a break. I'm going to go with my sheep somewhere else. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites lived in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herders and my herders, for we are kindred. Is not the whole land before you? So I presume it's like, you got a lot of land. There's other places I can go. Separate yourself from me. Go away. There's other land. Find your own land. If you take the left hand, then I will go on the right. Or if you take the right hand, then I'll go on the left. So he's not too bothered about where he goes, as long as he sods off. Lot looked about and saw that the plain of the Jordan was very well watered. I can concur. I've been to Jordan. It is very well watered, particularly around the river of Jordan, because there's a river. But yes, it was very well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord. To be honest, majority. So this is probably talking about the northern part of Jordan, which is more closer to Syria, the border of Syria, because there is where all the foliage and everything is. There's green pastures, that sort of thing. But down south, it's all desert. So this must be, which would link well, because Bethlehem is there. In West Bank. Is it in West? Yeah, it's in West Bank. And then you've got the Jordan River. And then you've got the green part of Jordan. So this is talking about it. So we're in the north part of Israel and the north part of Jordan. So Lot has gone off to Jordan. And Abram has gone, presumably, left towards probably Lebanon way, that way, maybe. Bethlehem, don't know, that way, in sort of more Israel's side. So, separate me, you go right. So Lot looked about him and saw the plain of Jordan was well watered, like the garden of the Lord. like the land of Egypt. In the direction of Zoar, this was before the Lord had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Jordan. And Lot journeyed eastward. So Sodom and Gomorrah is later destroyed. And so it might be closer to the Dead Sea way. So not quite Syrian border, but more down. Which that's even closer, to be honest, to Bethlehem than northern part. And Lot journeyed eastward. Thus they separated from each other. Yeah, eastward towards River Jordan and the Dead Sea. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the plain and moved his tent as far as Sodom. So he's moved to the city of Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. So now, this is interesting because now it starts to talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, we started off with Abram, and now we've gone off to his brother, I believe. Is it brother? Is Lot? Or nephew? Nephew. Lot is Abram's nephew. So now we've gone on a bit of a side quest with Lot, and we're sort of going a little bit more through to the story of Lot here, but we'll carry on. Now the people of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, raise your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northwards and southwards, and eastwards and westwards. So look all around you. For all the land that you see, I will give you to your offsprings forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offsprings can be counted. Now that's interesting, because don't they say something about the amount of sand, grains of sand in the world is like how many stars, or there's more stars, there's something linked to there. And later on it talks about, so this is talking about you're going to have as many offsprings as, dust on the earth. And then he goes, you see, and then I think later on from memory, and I think it's Abraham, he says, how many stars there are in the sky will be your descendants. So this is quite a nice parallel there from the sand and the stars, which we see quite common sort of saying sort of thing. Quite a common fact, rather. So Abram moved his tent. Oh, is that talking about Abram? Oh, yeah, the Lord said to Abram. So, yeah, so he talks about dust on the earth, but I believe he still talks about stars in the sky in a bit. So Abram moved his tent and came and settled in by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron. And there he built an altar to the Lord. There's a lot of moving about, but you've got to take into consideration there are so many more stars than grains of sand. Yeah, but is it, am I right in thinking that it's a common comparison? Counting how many how many grains of sand there are in a galaxy. There's some link. Anyway, actually there are infinitely more stars than grains of sand, but observable stars. Yeah, observable stars. Okay. So stars we can see. Nice. Thanks for that. That's actually really cool. So yeah, there's a lot of moving about, but you've got to take into consideration sort of the lifestyle here, which is, they're shepherds. They've got the flocks, although very rich shepherds, because they get other people to shepherd their sheep for them. But they're traveling about, and actually, funny enough, when I was in Jordan, People still live like this. There's shepherds who just walk around the mountains with all their sheep, and that's how they live, in tents, and they just move wherever their sheep move, because obviously they need the sheep need food. So they move about. Can't box them in. It's bad for them. Did you like the joke? So, and there's a lot of building altars, which probably, I'd assume, would be quite useful for archaeology. If we can find these sort of altars, assuming they're built from anything that can stand the test of time. In the days of King Aphraels of Sinai, this is a lot of words here. There's a lot of kings. Right. That's the important thing. Kings of Elam and king of Goyim. These kings made war. So a bunch of kings had a war with king of Bera of Sodom, king Bisha of Gomorrah. So the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah had a war against the king of Elessa, Elam, and Goim. And a few others, king of Bela and the king of Admah. All these joined forces in the valley of Siddim. Oh, there's a little bracket here. That is the Dead Sea. Oh, interesting. Siddim, Valley of Siddim. So it's near Sodom and Gomorrah. See, Dead Sea. I was right. They're near the Dead Sea. For 12 years, they had served Chedorlaomer, so the king of Elam. They'd served the king of Elam, but in the 13th year, they rebelled. So they've been fighting a war with the king of Elam, but now they're like, no, I'm going to rebel. In the 4th year, king of Elam and the kings who were with him came and subdued the Rephaim. The Rephaim. What does that word mean? An ancient race of legendary giants. So sort of like David and Goliath sort of thing. The Zurim in Ham. There's a lot of words here. This is so much. And so many words I can't actually say, like Corinthium. And the Horites in the hill country of Syria. Right, so what is actually happening here? What is going on? Wasn't that the Nephilim? Yeah, I think there's probably quite a few giants, but I'm not sure if the giants are like giants as in like, massive. I think giants might be a bit more like anyone over 6 foot, like NBA players, So they had a war. Then the king, right? This is it. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is all, went out, and they joined the battle in joined the battle in the valley of Siddim with the king of Elam. Oh, they just had a war, all right. But it's trying to all this is trying to do is trying to tell you this guy was with this guy, this guy was with this guy, and then they moved that guy, and then all that's happened so far is they're still fighting. That's all I need to know from that. Now the valley of Siddim was full of Butman pits. Butman pits, is that like quicksand or something? What is a Butman? Oh, so it's like It's sort of like quicksand sort of thing, but it's like a tar pit. Interesting. So it probably, same sort of treacherous sort of terrain, but it's a tar pit. That's what it looks like. Wouldn't want to fall down that. Tar pits, yeah. That actually looks quite similar to the sort of River Jordan as well. Sort of same sort of foliage sort of thing. Green. So, full of tar pits. And as the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, they fell into them. Oh, you know what? I was sort of rooting for Sodom and Gomorrah. Damn. And the rest fled to the hill country. So the enemy took the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions. What a plonker. They fell down a tar pit, presumably died, and all their provisions, and went their way. And they also took Lot. What is Lot doing here? Why is Lot just, you know what, they took everyone, and then, they took all the possessions, and then, you know what, they just decided to, all right, Lot, you're coming with us, mate. The son of Abram's brother, who lived in Sodom, and his goods departed. It was probably because he was so rich. And they were like, oh, you seem like a rich chap. I'm going to nick you. So I'm a giant. Are you over 6 foot? How tall are you? You're like 6'5"? 6'5"? Yeah, you could be considered a giant, but probably not a Nephilim, because I think they're quite mean. You tell me about stars and sea salt and stuff and AI. So Lot's been kidnapped now. So who comes to the rescue? Then one who had escaped came and told Abram. He was like, your nephew's been nicked by there was this war, and then they lost, and then for some reason your nephew's been taken. He had nothing to do with any of it. He was just living with the Sodom and Gomorrah people. So yeah, he's been kidnapped. So Abram heard that his nephew had been taken captive. He led forth his trained men, bore in his house 318 of them. Oh, he's got a lot of people working for him. It's a little small army there, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Who's Dan? He divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants. So he's using his servants as soldiers now, trained soldiers, and routed them and pursued them to Haberah. So he divided his forces. So he split his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and routed them and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus, which is in Syria. Then, they've travelled far. He's got them on the ropes there. Go on, Abram. Then he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his nephew Lot with his goods. He was like, look, I got you. I'm going to take all your goods. There you go, Lot. There's all your goods as well. Oh, yeah, I've got to take Lot as well. And the women and the people. So so everyone they've taken, every piece of thing he's got back. What a legend. After his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer, who was the king of Elam, I believe, the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom. I thought the king of Sodom got stuck in a tar pit. He's back. He got himself back out. So he was mugged, basically. Went out to meet him at the valley of Sheva. That is the King's Valley. And King Melchizedek of Salem brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High. So he's a priest. He brought bread and wine. That's interesting. Bread and wine. Sounds quite Eucharistic. Bread and wine. Might be there might be a link there. Bread and wine. Because you've got to remember, Jesus was, of course, a Jew. So there must be some sort of... Wasn't it Passover? They celebrated bread and wine. Am I wrong? I think I might be wrong. Why did Jesus have bread and wine? Because they were everyday staples in the ancient Near East and essential to the Passover. So this is like an offering of peace. Interesting. It's interesting, the bread and wine link. That's quite cool. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I like to think that I'm not. Jesus was a Jew, a practicing Jew, and therefore this seems like a Jewish, or at least maybe not even Jewish. Maybe it's a more a cultural thing for the area to sort of, we're having a get together, we're having a party, we're having, peace talks, a political talk, whatever, bread and wine. He blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High." God Most High, which suggests, what's the word? Monotheistic. Monotheism. It's the belief of the existence of a singular, all-powerful deity. So, by him saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High," God, singular, suggests that this guy is a Jewish priest. Bear in mind, Christianity and Islam were not a thing yet. And blessed be God Most High. So he's blessed Abram and he's blessed God, who delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. It's 1/10. So this sounds very similar to the tithing, giving 10% of your goods to, like, donating a 10% of your earnings. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people, but take the goods for yourself." So he said, "Give me the people, but, keep the goods." But Abram said to the king of Sodom, "I have sworn to the Lord God Most High, maker of heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal thong or anything that is yours, so that you might not say, I have made Abram rich." So he said, "I don't want to take anything from you because I made a promise. I will take nothing but what the young men have eaten and the share of the men who went with me." So he's taking what he needs. Cool. Let me think about this. Hello. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abraham in a vision. "Do not be afraid, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great." But Abram said, "Oh Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless. I've still got no heir." Sounds like King Henry VIII. Of my house in Damascus. And Abram said, "You have given me no offspring, and so a slave born in my house is to be the heir. I believe slavery in this time was slightly different to sort of the more modern slavery. This sort of slavery was more servitude, and I believe a little bit better looked after. A little bit, still probably not a very nice life. So a slave is currently the heir because he has not got any children. But the word of the Lord came to him: "This man shall not be your heir. No one but you, your very own issue, shall be your heir." He brought them outside and said, "Look towards heaven and count the stars, if you are able to count them." Ah, see? Knew it! Boom! Stars. See? Stars. So this is nice. I like this sort of link. Stars and sand, it's quite poetic. Look at the stars, and so shall be your descendants. And he believed the Lord, and the Lord reckoned it to him as righteousness. So he's trusting in the Lord that he will give what he would like. Then he said to him, "I am the Lord who brought you from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess." But he said, "Oh Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it?" He said to him, "Bring me a heifer 3 years old." What is a heifer? Heifer? What is a heifer? Heifer. A young female domestic, so a cow. A 3-year-old cow, a female goat that's also 3 years old, and a ram that's 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. He brought him all these and cut them into two, laying each half against another to other. Over the end, laying each half over against the other. But he did not cut the birds in two. And when the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. So this is very much Old Testament sort of sacrificing of the goat. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. Whenever these deep sleeps come in Genesis, I often think of this sort of, when you see a stage show and there's like, black screen, put the stage into darkness while we change the scene. I often think that this is like a transition for scene changes. A deep sleep fell upon Abram. So as the sun, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and a deep and terrifying darkness descended upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, "Know this for certain, that your offspring shall be aliens in the land that is not theirs, and shall be slaves there. And they shall be oppressed for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions." Now, this is sounding remarkably similar to the story of Exodus, which is interesting because you've got to remember this was written by Moses. And who is Moses? Only the Prince of Egypt, who's the Hebrew-born guy who was freed all the slaves from Egypt. That guy is just wrote about this sort of. This is sort of prophetic, really, a prophecy of what was to come. In the story of Exodus, this perfectly echoes to me the story of Exodus. Slaves there, they should be oppressed for 400 years in a land that is not theirs, so Egypt. I will bring judgment on the nation they serve. All the plagues, the frogs falling from the sky, the river turning to blood, all of this, bringing judgment, and then the freeing of the slaves and the parting of the seas. Oh, I'm excited to read Exodus. And afterwards, which is the next book in the Bible, afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. As for yourself, you shall go to your ancestors in peace. You shall be buried in good old age, and they shall come back here in the 4th generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. So he's saying you're going to live a pretty chill life, though, but your ancestors will have a real tough time of it. A real tough time. Until Moses, who wrote this, comes to save them all. Or frees them all. As the sun was going... Yeah, we've already done that. Skip ahead, Thomas. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham. So he's made a promise with Abraham, saying, to your descendants I will give you this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river of Euphrates, the land of the Kenites and the blah, 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 the Hittites. All of these lands, they're yours, to your ancestors. So this is, again, sounding very similar to sort of the Jewish claim to the land of Israel. So yeah, I think that's a good place to end the sort of opening part, the sort of the establishing the scene of Abram, how he's sort of the opening scenes of the story of Abram. And we'll carry on with the story of Sarah and the mistress and the sort of children in the next live stream. But I just want to sort of try and break down my understanding of what I've learned so far. So what's happened is not too much actually has happened, which is good because it means the next stream is going to be a lot more interesting. We've got rid of all of the sort of drier stuff. We've gone through the Tower of Babel, which seemed to be quite interesting in the sense of setting up the world in which Abram came to. We also thought somehow linked it with AI, which was an interesting link. And then what happened next? So we had the famine that led them to Egypt, and then Abram pimping out his wife and then getting very rich from that until the plague comes in Egypt and the Pharaoh's like, go take your wife. I thought it was your sister. And then with all their money, Abram and his nephew separate because there's not enough space for the boat. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. And then they move, and then there's a war with a bunch of kings. Lot gets kidnapped. And then Abram comes to the rescue and nicks all of their stuff back. And more. And then they're blessed by a king who's also a priest. And then there seems to be this sort of, as well as this sort of claim to the land, there seems to be also this sort of prophecy of Exodus. It's sort of like, yeah, we know that this is going to happen. And that's interesting, actually, because this would have been passed down by the Hebrews, which, when enslaved in Egypt, would have known the story of Abram and Abraham. They would have known this story, so they would have known that one day they'd be set free, which I quite like. I like that. So yeah, there's this sort of echo of Exodus, the freeing of the slaves, but not just yet. And he said, "Yeah, you're gonna live a pretty chill life now, Abram, but still more to the story." And that is where we got to. And then next live stream, we talk about Abram's wife not being able to have children, and then him having children with another woman, and then I think having children again with his wife. It's like an episode of Love Island. Not that I've ever watched Love Island, but that is my perception of Love Island, I guess. Don't come for me. But yeah, no, great. See you later, Velocipasta. I ain't no pasta. So I'm supposed to say Velociraptor. I don't know. Anyway, thank you. Be live again. Hopefully tomorrow. I think probably tomorrow. I aim to do 3 this week. So, yeah. See you later. Bye-bye.